We're joined by Simon Henderson. He's the director of the Gulf and Energy Policy Program at the Washington Institute. And we wanted to talk to you, Mr. Henderson, about the president's visit to Saudi Arabia today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I guess my first question is, listen, I understand when we were needing some strong allies in the Middle East and we were getting so much of our oil from the Middle East that Saudi Arabia played a pretty major role in that effort, and we needed them as allies at various times strategically and militarily. But considering the fact that domestic oil production is on such a rise here in the United States, and it seems to be, going pretty strong for quite some time now and into the future, and also given the fact that the Saudi government has been, involved in some things that eventually leads to some terror attacks here in the United States, are they really the best ally for the U.S., and do we need to maintain this relationship at the level that we have?
Well, they're not necessarily the best ally for the U.S. This is a country which I believe beheaded somebody today. It beheaded somebody on January the 1st. There have been various other beheadings since then, including the beheading in public in a street in Mecca of a woman where, you can see this on YouTube if you really want to, it took more than one strike of the sword in order to separate the head from the body. In addition, there's been a flogger blogged, I've got that around the wrong way, a blogger flogged with 50 lashes. He's got 950 to go on a weekly basis. Supposedly the punishment is suspended because the wounds from the first 50 lashes haven't healed properly.
Well, that's very troubling, of course, and we know about the excesses and the things that concern us. I want to look a little more, strategically, though. I mean, the one thing that we know about terrorism is that it will always take advantage of a political vacuum. In Yemen right now, a political vacuum. There's been a change in leadership in Saudi Arabia, right there in that same area. Is this something that we should, as Americans, be very concerned about?
We should certainly be concerned about Yemen. This is where various characters involved with Al-Qaeda have sought sanctuary, and they've launched plots against the United States from. To an extent, that has been countered successfully by drone strikes by U.S. forces, but those drone strikes have been done with the agreement of the Yemen government. At the moment, it's far from clear to most people that Yemen actually has a government, and we know the bad guys are still out there. So how the U.S. continues its counterterrorism policy is a bit of a challenge. As regards Saudi Arabia not only has Yemen being trouble in one corner of the country, but it's facing the threat of ISIS in Iraq to the north. And this is something which could really embarrass the Saudi government. So, in fact, it's constructing a hugely expensive and hugely elaborate border fence along that border in order to cope. But if they haven't done the correct things internally, the fence won't necessarily stop the trouble arriving in their home.
Meanwhile, the president is in Saudi Arabia today. He will meet with the new monarch there, King Salman. He expressed great diplomatic words of care and loving admiration for King Abdullah upon his passing. And you tell me all of the atrocities that go on at the hands of that government, squelching freedom of speech. We just saw all these leaders marching in the streets of Paris wanting freedom of expression. But if you express yourself in Saudi Arabia, you get 900 lashes. Is this country our friend? And why are we pretending that they are a member of the world community when they behave this way?
Well, I'm not somebody to make excuses for Saudi Arabia, but the logic of the U.S. relationship with the kingdom is that we need their cooperation to go after the really bad guys, and those really bad guys threaten the House of Saud as much as us. And on top of that, although we're becoming energy independent, that's a bad phrase, but U.S. oil production has expanded. we still need Saudi Arabia because of the nature of the world oil market. Oil is, as they say, fungible, and most oil will still be in the Middle East, and the cheapest oil is certainly in the Middle East. And the U.S., as a superpower, wants to make sure that oil, at whatever price, is able to get into the world market and into the world economy for the prosperity of everybody.
We've heard that the president and the former king were not particularly close. I mean, some have suggested that the former king of Saudi Arabia didn't care for President Obama one bit. But yet the president is making a quick trip there to pay his respects to the new king. Does that mean he wants to try to get on a better course, or is this just something that you have to do in a situation where you need the help of the Saudis in that particular part of the world?
I think it's because it's something you have to do. King Abdullah, who died last week, was upset with President Obama for a couple of reasons. One was that the president threatened action against Syria over the issue of chemical weapons and then backed away from it at the last moment. And currently, the U.S. is working on a diplomatic initiative with Iran over the nuclear issue, and that diplomatic initiative in Saudi eyes is far too generous from Iran, which it considers as its most local regional adversary.
I guess is there evidence? You said that this is a strategic partnership and we need them to help get the really bad guys. How has that alliance been working out? I mean, have they really been a partner in going after the worst of the worst terrorists, or only the ones that also threaten the Kingdom of Saud?
Well, if I was going to give them a mark, I'd perhaps give them 7 out of 10, and slightly less for effort. They argue that they do face the same threats as the United States, but they're prepared to make compromises in ways that are inimical to certainly our way of thinking and almost certainly also to our interests.
And isn't it true that they fund madrasas around the world, many of them in London and Paris, that breed many homegrown terrorists with radical ideology?
Well, absolutely. The Saudi problem here is that their definition of what Islam is a very conservative, hard-line definition. So they would regard funding madrasas abroad as being a good thing.
Yeah.
We would regard those madrasas as turning out hardliners.
Yeah. All right.
Well, listen, Simon, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your expertise. Greatly appreciated.
Simon Henderson, Director of the Gulf and Energy Policy Program at the Washington Institute. Of course, he's based in London.